Well, every day is a great day to be out in the bush, but today's fantastic because of the sun. I've been possuming for a few years now, and when I first got into it I was told by quite a few people that the days of large numbers of possums were over, that all the good spots were gone, and I got quite depressed and believed them for a while, but they're wrong. They're right if all you ever do is travel around in your surf and or your vehicle or your quad or whatever, and you just go a few metres into the bush and chuck a few traps out. You won't catch much, not consistently anyway. What you need to do is identify isolated patches of bush with limited or no vehicle access and be prepared to hump your gear in. To accomplish that, I use this. It's a frame. I've only had it for a while. Before that I used an old pack and it used to kill my back. So this, you can, with this, it's a Tonka, this one, but there's other makes and models out there. I paid $200 and something for it, and it's been a fantastic investment. 50 traps in there is no problem at all, even in steep country. Sure, when you power up the hills you'll feel it a bit more, but this has been wonderful. I should have brought it years ago. Having said that, if you're just getting into possuming, don't spend lots of money, don't buy new stuff. I'll try and give you as many tips as I can on how to get the best out of possuming without spending a lot of money. You want to hang on to your money as much as you can. As you'll discover, there'll be times where you make good money and there'll be times when the weather sets in and you're not making anything at all. So you've got to adjust your lifestyle to fit that. Okay, so we're going to keep going, and we're going into a patch of bush. While we're there I'll give you a few tips and tricks along the way, and hopefully you'll learn something, and you may even enjoy the day as much as we have. Talk to you soon. Okay, let's do a set. So remember I showed you in the previous video, set it on your knee like so. This is a Bushmaster. Okay, make sure your pan is dead level as it is there. Nail your chain as low to the ground as you can, and don't nail it by the ring, because what will happen is that gives the possum the ability to really pound itself and either pull your trap or damage itself. You want to inflict as little damage on the possum as you can, and you don't want to lose your traps, especially not attached to a possum. So nail your chain in low, like so. And we're going to place our trap. Remember, imagine a possum up on its hind legs, looking at your flower blaze. So the pan wants to be about there. So what I do is, first of all, I dig a hole to bury my chain, because if your chain's exposed, what will happen, is the possum can play with your chain and pull your trap out and flip it over and do all sorts of wonderful things to it. So I've buried my chain. Now I'm going to bed my trap. Lift that up, don't do what I just did because you'll catch your fingers. Bed your trap until it's solid, it's not moving at all, like that. Okay, now that trap's good. Hide your few links that are up there. This is the brew that I made on the previous video. If you haven't seen it yet, just have a look at the video. I think I called it trap maintenance or trap tuning and how to make a killer brew. You just need a little bit. Just wipe it on the tree in a couple of places, up high preferably, there, about there, and then one down a bit lower. So what you want the possum to do is to come along, see your blaze, and then smell that, eat that, and then come up over your trap. You want his hind legs to be in this, not his front. So you'll come up, you'll see that, climb up in the tree, and then bang, you've got your possum. And get your flour, and be generous with your flour and icing sugar mix. Make sure they can really see your set. So there we go. Sprinkle a little bit over there, and we're all good to go. And hopefully when we get back tomorrow there'll be a possum there waiting for us. I imagine there would be here because there's plenty of sign. Well, we caught ourselves a possum with the set I showed you yesterday. He was asleep, or she was asleep when we got here. I'm about to go and deliver the bad news, and unfortunately that's the downside to being a possum in New Zealand, is that they're a pest, and this is what we have to do. Well, possum's effectively dead. Whoop, I've just clobbered it. Now it's a male. Now this makes a big difference when it comes to plucking. Don't ask me why, but if you bleed it out you'll find it's a lot easier to pluck. It's early May. Unfortunately, the possums are still growing into their winter coats, so I've only found a couple that are worth skinning. Look at this one here. I'll get Sue to zoom in on it. See on the back there, it's still regrowing, and when we pluck it, I'll show you. You'll probably see new fur coming through where it's been in fights before and what have you. The does are just starting to come into season, well, have come into season, and they're starting to produce joeys, and are setting themselves up for winter. Right, we'll pluck this possum, and I'll be back to you soon. So if you have a look at the carcass of this possum, see the regrowth under there where it's been in fights during the breeding season. If you're selling skins or you're using your skins to make something at home, this one's just not worth it until that regrowth, until that's grown out, and that's still a month or so away. So it's only worth plucking. Look there. Now, I knew one guy, one possumer, and he'd be disgusted at the amount of fur I've left on this, but the fur's not very long, and we're just going to keep moving along. But some people pluck even the eyebrows, so I've been told. But I think it's more efficient just to get more traps out and to keep covering the ground, which we'll do. Back soon. Okay, we're going to be laying cyanide, so the key with cyanide is to pre-feed at least 2 days previously. And we pre-fed yesterday, we're going to pre-feed again today, and then tomorrow we're going to poison. Now, there's bad weather coming in a couple of days' time, which is actually perfect because the day before the bad weather comes, we'll have poison out and the possums will be moving. So this is how we do it. Get yourself some number 8 wire. It's cheap and free, it's all over the show. Put a pigtail in it, like that, and flower pots. So these pots, I've just drilled a hole in on either side, and then to put it on your bit of wire, you just push this through, like that. Pull your pigtail inside, and I don't know if Sue can show you that, but see, you just push that up through the other hole, like so. And you're ready to go. Stick that in the ground, get your pre-feed. This is this brew that I showed you in the previous video, if you've seen it. If you have not, have a look for it. It's called a killer brew, and how to tune your traps or something along those lines. So just roll up a nice big blob of pre-feed, and then put a little bit of flour and icing sugar on top of it, and I'll show you why when I do the cyanide set. Right. You've put out a nice attractive meal for a possum. It'll come along, have a taste, it'll like that. Second night, it'll be cautious the first night. Second night, it'll be coming back to have a look, and bingo, it's there again. Third night, it's going to be in boots and all. It's not even going to think about it. It's going to know it's a safe food source, and you're going to do the bait and switch. You're going to put a very unpleasant surprise there for the possum, and instead of a nice, delicious, fatty gourmet treat, there's going to be a bit of cyanide in there, and the possum's going to have its last meal. Okay, we'll come back tomorrow and poison the pot, and then we'll see how we get on. Oh well, the possums had a good feed last night, knocked our pot over. Not very polite dinner guests, but we're not very polite hosts either, as it's going to turn out. So this has been pre-fed for 2 nights. You see the possums have cleaned it out. So we're going to set it up for them and have a little treat. Now, my brew's slightly different today. I've only got flour in here, not flour and icing sugar, and I'll show you why in a minute. So what I do is put a little bit of bait, pre-feed, not too much, at the back of the station. Now other people do this differently, that's fine, you'll find your own way, but this works for us. So I put the pre-feed right at the back. Now the reason for that is the possum's used to the smell of it. It's going to come along, it's going to stick its nose in there, and it's going to smell the good stuff. Notice I'm wearing gloves. This is a cyanide paste. It's deadly stuff. You don't mess around with it. You've got to get your cyanide license, obviously. Make sure you comply with all the rules and regulations, otherwise you'll lose your license and you'll make it difficult for the rest of us. And we don't want you killing yourself. This will kill you as quick as anything, and it will kill other vertebrates as well, so you've got to be very careful with it. So I've got my little bit of bait at the back, then I get my cyanide out. Now I always put my top on top like that. You don't want to lose your top. And you don't need much in the way of cyanide. You just need, the trouble, it's quite cold here at the moment, and it's hard to get out of the tube. Probably a pea-sized bait is all you need. Don't know if you can see that. If I get Sue to zoom in on it. And I put that right at the front of the station like that. Now this is cyanide by Conservations. I prefer Trapper's Cyanide, but I use both, which comes from, Trapper's Cyanide comes from Christchurch. I find it a bit more effective and a bit stickier. The trouble with the conservation stuff is, though it works really well, is it can get knocked out quite easily by a possum. So get a stick and just make sure that's stuck to your pot. See how that came off straight away? Like so. And then just get rid of your stick. Put your top back on your cyanide, and then just give it a very, very light dusting of flour. Just like so. Now you've conditioned your possum to see that little bit of flour and to associate it with a food source. He'll come back tonight and he'll hook into your cyanide. Believe it or not, that bait can kill 4 or 5 possums quite easily. And you're all good to go. There's no rain tonight, I don't believe, but just move your station forward a bit just in case it does, and there you go. We'll see what we get tomorrow. As my dear old dad used to say, you'd forget your head if it wasn't screwed on. Why haven't I put icing sugar in the flour this time? It's very simple, is that icing sugar will react with the cyanide and produce hydrocyanide gas, which the possums will smell and it will put them off, and you don't want that. So it has a very strong smell. They'll come along, stick their nose in and go, hang on, this has changed, and they may not take your bait. So just use a little bit of flour. So it's just a visual attractant now. You've already conditioned them to associate that with good food, and you'll do well. Talk to you soon. Okay, keep your eyes open for the good possum runs. That'll give you a very good indication of possum density. Here's a butte. I'll just walk you along it. Hopefully you can see that okay. Got a sign there, look. Deer, that is, and possum. Up around here and off into the bush. Now, you'll find this run goes for miles up into the tussock. This is an isolated patch of bush. Sometimes you'll get runs coming and going through tussock and there's nothing to hang a trap on. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to catch possums using the resources that nature supplies you with. Back in a minute. Okay, here we've got, you won't see this right hand side one here, or your left. There's a nice run coming down here, and there's a run coming down towards me, and they meet in a T, and that's an ideal place to put your trap. Trouble is, where do you hang your trap on? Well, there's always something around if you look. Never ever do this set in an area where there's kiwi or weka. If you do, you're not a possum trappers, whatever. You don't want to catch weka and you don't want to catch kiwi in your traps, so never ever do that. But here there's nothing like that, so we're quite safe to do this set. It's very effective, and I quite enjoy it because you're not using lure. Anyway, enough babbling on. I'll go and look and find something to anchor our trap to, and we'll go to stage 2. Okay, there's a branch down there. I'll just go and grab it and we'll get into it. They don't need to be very heavy because we're going to anchor our trap. We're going to anchor our trap in the middle of it. So it's going to offer a lot of resistance when a possum tries to pull it away, and they just won't. The furthest they'll go is 2 or 3 meters, and then they'll give up, stop struggling. Normally in this sort of country they'll curl up under the grass here, and when you come in the morning you'll find them sound asleep. Right, I'll go and grab a trap, and I'll show you how to do the set. So I've just had a quick look around in the bush behind me, found a rotten log, and I've got some nice soft material to put on top of my trap. So I'll just put that to one side, Possums are creatures of habit, and if you study them, you'll soon get to know where they are most likely to place their feet. The possum's running down here and there's an intersection, so where that intersection meets, there's a high likelihood that they're going to put a paw. It won't be right in the middle, it'll be offset slightly. So I'm going to cut a place for my trap about there, like so. This is where this hammer's brilliant. We'll take that out. Okay, and now we're going to bed our trap in there again, and I'm going to harp on. If you're in country with kiwi or weka, never ever do this. Right, we're going to put our trap in there. Okay, so that trap is just level with our plate is just level with the ground there. So next, I'll use a little bit of this stuff here. Actually, I can use the stuff I dug out just around the outsides of the trap at this stage, and this just firms it in there a bit. This is my favourite style of trapping, and I've learned it basically by trial and error and from reading. And there's a very good book out there called Trappers, Dogs and Deer by a guy called Wayne Blake. I highly recommend that you get your hands on a copy and read it. I've read mine several times. I've had 2 copies, lent both of them, and both of them have gone, unfortunately. So don't lend it to anyone, or if you do, make sure you get it back off them. Right, so our trap's now bedded. We're going to cover it now. We put our piece of toilet paper over the trap like that and hold it on firmly. Now get your light material and just spread that over the top. You don't want it to be too thick. If you see any sticks or anything thick in there, remove them. Okay. You don't really want the possum to notice it, and they won't. They'll be on the move. When they come in tonight, they'll be running. There's nothing here to stop it. So put your branch to one side. This is one time when you can nail it by the ring. You'll have no problems. It's not gonna. There's no real resistance when it pulls against it, so that's fine. Whack your staple in. And then be pedantic and cover up your chain, so there's nothing to really alert the possum to the fact that there's anything here. It's very interesting. You do these sets if you go into an area and you think you've exhausted your possum supply. You'll find that if you do this, you'll start catching big does, and they're normally the last possums to run. So you can even just throw something over there to hide the chain. It's up to you. I like to hide it, and we're all good to go. Anyway, we'll come back tomorrow and see how we get on. Well, our set worked. We caught a female last night from the look of it. She was asleep under the tussock when we got here. She's dragged it probably about 2 metres, no more, and she's a big possum by possum standards around here. So you're not going to lose your trap, and it's a very effective way to catch possums when you haven't got anything to hang your traps on. The other option is backboards, but you need to carry those up, of course, and we're a long way in here, and I'd rather not carry backboards in. So we'll give her the bad news and put her out of her misery, and I'll talk to you again soon.